Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. The story begins in 17th century Japan. Hanzo Hasashi is the leader of a clan called Shirai Ryu, known for their martial arts talent. His wife is named Harumi, and she is taking care of their 2 children when she hears terrible screams outside. Realizing the clan is under attack, she quickly hides the baby under the floor and tries to escape with her son. But their path is blocked by Baihan, who leads a clan of ninjas called Lin Kei. Harumi cries out in fear and refuses to say where her husband is. Seeing the boy assume a fighting stance, Baihan is amused by the child's bravery and decides to showcase his own talents. We then discover he has the ability to create ice out of nothing. Hanzo is drawing water from the well when he hears Harumi's screams. He runs to save her but cannot reach in time. She and the boy are frozen at the door of their home, and an ice spear pierces her body. Hanzo begins to cry, then realizes the assassins are still around. 2 masked men attack him, but Hanzo defends himself with incredible skill. Seeing several other intruders starting to surround him, he ties a rope to the handle of a dagger, optimizing his movements. The attackers fall one by one, and Hanzo takes them all down. Finally, the only one left is Baihan, who is calmly meditating on a rock. He boasts of just having decimated the legendary Shirai Ryu and celebrates the end of Hanzo's lineage. Swearing to avenge his family, Hanzo throws the dagger, but Baihan has admirable reflexes and manages to dodge. When Hanzo pulls the rope, the dagger slices Baihan's face. The 2 begin to fight, and Baihan wounds his opponent with his own dagger. Hanzo manages to remove it and continues to retaliate, but Baihan ultimately wins the battle. Hanzo merely tells him to never forget his face. He is still alive when Baihan leaves, and the baby begins to cry, but his strength betrays him. He finally succumbs and his body is engulfed in flames before disappearing. Soon after, lightning announces the arrival of Raiden, the thunder god. After examining the dagger, he finds the hidden baby and takes him away. In modern times, we meet Cole Young, a fighter who has seen better days and is now going through a losing streak. His wife is named Allison, and although she supports him, she doesn't like watching his fights. Unlike their daughter, Emily. When the referee asks who will be in Young's corner for today's fight, he says it's the girl. The arena is packed, and a man named Jax arrives in the midst of the fight, just in time to see Young's defeat. Emily doesn't want him to give up, but the father concedes and loses the fight. Meanwhile, a sinister meeting is taking place in the realm of Outworld, which is the rival of Earthrealm in the Mortal Kombat competition. They have already won 9 tournaments and will be able to invade Earthrealm if they take the 10th trophy. However, an ancient prophecy says that a group of warriors will unite when Hanzo Hasashi's lineage resurfaces. The sorcerer Shang Tsung is concerned about this and talks to Baihan about it. He doesn't believe in the prophecy and reminds Shang that he himself ended Hanzo's lineage. Still, Shang doesn't want to take chances and sends Baihan to Earthrealm to eliminate its champions before the final tournament, thereby ensuring Outworld's victory. When Shang calls Baihan by name, he corrects him, saying that he is now called Sub-Zero. Meanwhile, Young is still recovering from the fight and receives a gift from his daughter. Emily made a bracelet identical to hers and says it represents strength. Then, Jax approaches them and introduces himself. He claims to be a fan of Young and praises his dragon logo. Emily explains that it's a birthmark, and Young pulls up his shirt to show it. We see it's the same mark that Hanzo had on his arm. Jax seems impressed but says nothing more. Next, Young and Emily find Allison at a diner. Jax is in the car watching the family and talking to someone about Young. He confirms he saw the mark and says he's keeping an eye on him right now. Emily is sitting alone at the table when it starts to snow, even though it's summer. Ice begins to cover everything and a dark mist appears on the street, revealing Sub-Zero's figure. To everyone's astonishment, the snow changes direction and the ice breaks loose, floating in the air. With a gesture, Sub-Zero makes all the ice crash down and shatter on the ground. Everyone starts screaming and running in panic. Jax orders the family into the car and speeds off. Showing he also has the dragon mark, he explains that it's the sign of the chosen ones, and that's why Young is in danger. Seeing ice ahead, Jax knows Sub-Zero is catching up to them. He grabs a weapon and hands the keys to Young, telling him he must go to Indiana to find Sonya Blade. Young hurriedly leaves while Jax confronts the enemy. Sub-Zero lures him to an abandoned building, where he surprises him from behind before he can shoot. The ice disables the weapon, and Jax is forced to fight, but it's not a fair fight. With his powers, Sub-Zero freezes Jax's arms, who is horrified to see the ice shattering. He ends the fight by throwing his opponent down to the lower floor, leaving Jax there, armless. Arriving home, Young tells Allison he will go to Indiana alone. He was frightened by what Jax said and doesn't want to risk his family. In Outworld, a warrior named Melina informs Shun that one of the targets managed to escape. She finds it dangerous to evade the tournament rules this way, but Shang ignores her and tells her to send the terrifying Sizoth to Earthrealm. At the address Jax gave him, Young jumps the barbed wire and is immediately attacked by Sonya Blade. Only when he mentions Jax and shows his mark does she let him in. She explains that she met Jax in Special Forces, and the two have been studying the dragon mark since a mission in Brazil 7 years ago. Besides the mark, the target of the operation also had supernatural powers and wiped out almost the entire team. As soon as Jax defeated him, the mark was transferred to him. Their research revealed realms and creatures previously unknown. Sonya explains that these realms face each other periodically in a series of tournaments known as Mortal Kombat. The dragon mark indicates that the person was selected to fight for Earth. Then a man's voice starts grumbling, and Young discovers a man chained in the next room. His name is Kano, and he is a mercenary for the Black Dragons clan. He executed one of the chosen that Sonya was tracking, and that's how he got the mark. Suddenly, the lights go off. Several objects begin to fall on their own, and something growls in the dark. An invisible force knocks Young down and attacks Kano. Sonya begins to shoot and throw knives, gradually revealing a horrendous creature. When the creature disappears again, Young and Sonya go on high alert. The reptile is above them, on one of the beams in the ceiling. It catches a knife with its tongue and swallows it before launching another attack. Noticing the stream of acid dripping from the ceiling, Kano takes the opportunity to break free from his shackles. But he still has to get past the monster before fleeing. Young advises him to stab the flares into that sneaky pest. Now the three can aim much better, and the creature finally reveals itself completely. It fights all three, but it is clear that it is after Kano. Sonya saves him with a martial arts trick that ends with another knife in the lizard. Kano finishes the attack by thrusting his arm through the slimy creature's body and ripping out its heart. In the kitchen, Kano mentions Raiden's temple, and Sonya's eyes widen. It is in this temple that Earth's champions train for Mortal Kombat, but no one knows where it is. She promises Kano $3 million to take them there but confesses to Young that she doesn't have that money. The next day, they hitch a ride on a plane from one of Kano's friends in parachute in the middle of the desert. The tension between Sonya and Kano escalates, and he accuses her of envying his mark, reminding her what she has to do to get it. Accepting the challenge, she fights him and manages to overpower him, making it clear that she didn't take the mark because she didn't want to. The trio continues their journey until a young man named Liu Kang appears to welcome them. Kano tries to assert respect right away, not counting on the boy's ability to create fire. Liu introduces himself as a Shaolin of the Order of Light and says he is one of Earthrealm's champions. He leads them to the temple and lights the way with his hand as a torch. Sonya admires the murals confirming the legends, and Liu explains that Outworld is the cruelest of realms. Jax is also in the temple, still unconscious, and Sonya is shocked to see what happened to him. Liu asks for patience and says he's in good hands now. After this brief tour, Liu takes the visitors to Lord Raiden, who is not pleased with what he sees. He tells Sonya she doesn't even have the mark and that Young is not physically or mentally fit to fight. Kano is offended to see the god not even mention him. Raiden silences his protests with a lightning bolt. Young says his family is in danger and begs for a chance. At the entrance of the temple, Liu is startled when his torch goes out, and the sound of cracking ice echoes in the air. We see that Sub-Zero is already entering the temple, and Liu rushes to stop him. There is a brief clash between ice and fire until the invader grabs the boy and begins to create a spear. Liu is saved by a sharp hat, his ally Kung Lao's favorite weapon. However, Sub-Zero is not alone. Shang arrives with Melina and orders an attack against the champions, but Raiden stops him with a lightning barrier. The sorcerer backs off but says that this kind of trick will stop working sooner or later. After yet another demonstration of incredible powers, Kano is eager to know what his is. Lu says that's exactly why they're there. Each person's power depends on their arcana and only reveals itself during combat. It's essential that they discover their powers before the tournament since they won't win against Outworld otherwise. Lu tells Sonya she can watch if she wants, but that the training is just for the chosen ones. Of course, Kano doesn't miss this opportunity to mock her. Frustrated, she decides to stay with Jax, who has just woken up. The first training fight is between Young and Kung Lao. Young manages to dodge the killing hat almost all the time but doesn't commit to the fight enough. Next, Kano faces Lu and starts embarrassing himself from the very first blow. After training, Lu tells Young a bit more about himself, saying that he wasn't born with the mark. He was sent by the clan to punish a man who preyed on orphans. His victim had the dragon mark, and that's how he got it. The training continues while Sonya helps Jax recover. He isn't getting used to the new arms and laments having become useless. During dinner, everyone gets annoyed by Kano's disrespectful behavior. Then, Kang and Lu start humiliating him, criticizing everything from his physique to his intellect. Lu even says he looks like an angry bunny, and his rage doesn't scare anyone. The others start laughing, and Kano grows increasingly furious until a laser beam shoots from his right eye, almost frying Kang as he protects himself with the hat. Young is dismayed to see that even Kano managed to unlock his power while he hasn't. To make matters worse, the next day, the first fight is between the two, and Kano tries to be as unpleasant as possible. Raiden expresses his disappointment with Young's failure. Trying to defend himself, Young says he is the only one among the champions who was actually chosen. And then he finds out that it's not quite like that. Young is a descendant of Hanzo, and everyone from his lineage automatically receives the dragon mark. Raiden tells him Hanzo's story, saying that he now lives in the Netherrealm, still thirsty for revenge. He had hoped Young would have inherited at least a bit of the talent of his illustrious ancestor, but it seems that is not the case. Opening a lightning portal, he sends Young away, for a warrior without arcana is a risk to everyone. Meanwhile, Shang introduces the hunter Nitara to his assembled warriors. Besides Sub-Zero and Melina, Cable and General Reiko are present. Shang says he saw the champions of Earthrealm and knows the tournament will be a piece of cake. Still, he wants to cheat, neutralizing the opponents before the fight. The problem is that Raiden keeps them all in the temple, where he can block any invasion. Cable asks if one of the champions is an unbearable guy named Kano. At that moment, the meeting is interrupted by the arrival of an important ally, Prince Goro. Shortly after, Cable unexpectedly appears at the temple, outside the protective field. Kano recognizes him and the two exchange almost friendly insults. Regretting that Cable has lowered himself to ally with monks, he lists the advantages of working with Shang. One of them is being able to ask for any amount of money, always doubling the amount. Young is at home with his family when strange noises start coming from outside. He goes out to see what it is, and dark smoke starts to take form. At the same time, Kano has already sold himself to the enemy and is using the laser to destroy the stone in Raiden's staff. This undoes the protective field, and Shang enters the temple right after. Sonya does not hide her disdain when she sees Kano with the Outworld crew. At Young's house, the smoke transforms into Prince Goro, leaving Allison and Emily terrified. While Young does what he can to defend his family, Shang's warriors face the temple champions. Melina manages to wound and overpower Sonya but realizes she doesn't have the mark and says her death has no worth. Since Kano doesn't care about such things, he decides to continue the fight with Sonya in his colleague's place. When Kang has the audacity to confront Shang directly, the sorcerer orders Nitara to exterminate him. However, Kang ends up getting the better of her, slicing the villainess in half with his hat, infuriating Shang. Allison and Emily panic when they see Prince Goro about to break Young's spine. Then, Allison attacks the giant with an axe, and he throws her away. The two run to the car, but he begins to destroy the vehicle. They start crying and screaming, asking Young to help them. A yellow light appears in his eyes and something begins to emerge from the bracelet, forming a kind of armor. Much more energized, he charges at Goro and breaks one of his forearms. Goro retaliates, and every time he hits Young, his body emits a red glow in the same spot, as if he is gathering all that energy. Until finally, the armor expands and two Tunfas appear. Now that he is equipped with all his arcana, Young manages to defeat Prince Goro in a few minutes. Something similar is happening in the temple when Jax sees Sonya trapped under a stone. Activating his arcana for the first time, he gains a pair of arms that give him extreme strength and easily removes the stone. When Raiden finally returns to the temple, he opens the portal at Young's house to bring him back. He thanks Shang for helping him find his arcana, revealing that the expulsion was just a trick. Shang and Sub-Zero become enraged when they recognize the warrior's ancestry, but they cannot harm him. Raiden transports to another dimension along with the champions. Unfortunately, Shang manages to grab Kung before he joins the others and sucks out his soul, to lose to spare. In the intermediate dimension, Jax asks why Raiden didn't save Kung, and he says the gods are forbidden from interfering in wars between realms. The loss of a great warrior jeopardizes Earthrealm's chances. Then, Raiden hands Young the dagger stained with Hanzo's blood so that his spirit can assist him in battle. Young says that their only chance is to divide the opposing team, sending each champion to face their opponent fairly. After all, that's how the tournament that Outworld so desperately wants to avoid should be. Jax asks to be sent to Reiko, and Sonya wants revenge on Kano. Young and Lu will face Mileena and Cable. Then the fights begin. Reiko is surprised by the new Jax and discovers that his little hammer won't save him anymore. Seizing the opportunity to flaunt his new hands, Jax finishes him off with a clap. The battle between Kano and Sonya is even more interesting, as he should have the advantage, but not even with the laser can he counter such fury. A bottle of acetone right in the eye causes the laser to backfire on its owner for a few moments. The fight goes through all the rooms of the house and ends up in the backyard, where Sonya takes down Kano and, as a bonus, gains her mark. Lu expresses all his rage at Kung's loss in the form of a massive fire dragon that engulfs Cable. Young has the hardest time with Mileena, but Sonya arrives with her new powers to help him. The group's plan is to save Sub-Zero for last so that they can face him together. But of course, he doesn't wait for that to happen. After kidnapping Allison and Emily, he removes the girl's bracelet to show Young before turning it into crushed ice. Falling into the trap, Young follows him through the portal and ends up having to face him alone. However, this changes as soon as he uses the dagger. Sub-Zero is suddenly pierced by a fire spear. It's time to settle the score with Scorpion, who is Hanzo's spirit. Removing his mask, he asks if he still remembers that face, and by Sub-Zero's expression, it's evident that he does. He makes an ice sword, and the two clash while Young tries to free his wife and daughter. Sub-Zero creates a wall of ice just to throw Scorpion through it. When Scorpion lands in the middle of the ring, he sees Allison and Emily almost frozen and remembers Harumi with her son. He realizes that Young's desperation is the same as his own. Together, the two attack Sub-Zero. He freezes half of Scorpion, trapping him in the ground, but he manages to free one hand and produce fire. This melts some of the ice, trapping Allison and Emily, allowing Young to start freeing them. Scorpion strikes Sub-Zero in the chest and tells him that instead of succumbing to the flames of hell, he learned to control them. A jet of fire shoots from his mouth and burns his old enemy, finally killing him. Scorpion asks Young to take care of his lineage and then disappears in a whirlwind of flames. Raiden and the others appear right after, and Young introduces them to his family. Now the only remaining enemy is Shang. Raiden expels him back to Outworld but warns the group that this is not the end, as there will always be more tournaments and new threats. He has already made a list of new warriors, and Young prepares to go to Hollywood to recruit the first one, Johnny Cage.